Hey guys, I wanted to get another upload out before the end of the month, and pretty much everything I'm working on at the moment is going to take some time. I haven't done a Q&A since last March, and I only had around 2,000 subscribers at the time, so I figured it was time to do one again. Let's just get into it. I like to keep Jesus close, but my demons closer. I'm going to start off with the more silly, less serious questions, since they're short answers, but if you want to get to the questions more relevant to my content, please check out the video chapters. First unserious question is from Pluto in my Discord, who asks, what is your favorite pasta shape? And honestly, I don't have one, but I don't really like long pasta, at least if I'm making it, like spaghetti or fettuccine or anything like that. It's hard to fit in a pot and it's annoying to cook in general. Second is a three-part question coming from Ashy Flashy. One is, what is your favorite band/artist? I don't have one main favorite, but I really like Rare Americans, AJJ, Passion Pit, Jer, and Moonwalker. Moonwalker is the artist whose music is in my outro screen and has been for most of my channel. Second part is favorite candy, probably dark chocolate Milky Ways, but I can't eat them anymore because they're not vegan. Do you have any unpopular opinions related to Avatar: The Last Airbender? I like this question. I like Legend of Korra more than the original Avatar series, which is probably the biggest one. I relate to Korra a lot. I like her a lot. I also really don't think season 2 was that bad. It had a dip in quality, but to call it bad, it seems very absurd to me. I also think Azula is a lot more of a nuanced character than people give her credit for. She's not just straight up evil or insane, she's a traumatized child. My husband and I joke that I'm Azula's defense attorney. AxeMartin6853 asks, what is your favorite game and your most controversial take on that game's fandom? I'm actually pretty horrible at video games and prefer like cozy game type stuff. I think the only game that I play that has much of a fandom is The Sims 4. I don't know if I have any controversial takes regarding it. I pirate all the DLC, which pisses some people off, but that's honestly not even abnormal or very controversial considering how money hungry EA is, and there's like, I think over 80 DLC for The Sims 4 at this point or something. It's pretty common basically. Argent Soul the artist asks what my favorite type of sandwich is, and my answer is an abomination of a sandwich that I made up myself. I usually call it a chip sandwich, but it's functionally a how much spicy stuff can I fit on this bread sandwich. I usually add Zapp's jalapeno chips, pepper jack cheese, Yellowbird habanero hot sauce, pickled jalapenos, and I try to use spicy bread if I have any. I haven't been able to find vegan pepper jack that I'm not allergic to, so if anyone knows a cashew-free vegan pepper jack, please let me know because the sandwich is sad without pepper jack. I think that's all for the kind of questions about me that are silly questions, so I'm going to move on to the more long-winded and relevant ones. This one comes from Foxberry, and it is not a long-winded one to start out. Fox asks, what is a random historical figure that you know way too much about? I have a few answers to this, but most of them are obviously like American religious people. I'd include Paul Weyrich, Jerry Falwell Sr., and Charles Taze Russell. Next question comes from Mick Asur in my Discord server. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. They asked, when did you discover transmedicalism? I knew transmeds were a thing since I was about maybe 14 or 15, just through being a Tumblr kid, but I wasn't one until I was around 17, and within that time my views have still changed a lot while remaining consistent on like the basic definition of you need dysphoria to be trans. The actual story of how I became a transmedicalist is pretty long, but the like sort of TLDR version is that I was in an abusive relationship when I came out in high school, which was with another trans person who has since detransitioned as an adult. This person was extremely and aggressively inclusionist, and many of my views about trans issues, among many other things, were shaped by them. When I left that relationship, I had very little self-identity, and I reevaluated a lot of my identity and beliefs and values with the help of a therapist, and I realized that I hadn't really looked into any of the things that I came to believe in with this person, so I kind of tried to just start from scratch to see how I felt about them. I've always kind of valued logos over pathos and came to realize from reading scientific papers that my previous views didn't really align with my values, so I changed them. I didn't start meaningfully talking about transmedicalism online until about 2020, 2021, however. Next question is also from the Discord and comes from Shay. Similar to the previous but different topic, Shay asks, when did you discover you were an anti-theist? This question doesn't have an exact answer because I've never been religious, and ever since I knew religion did exist, it irritated me in a I can't fathom this kind of way. I've told the story a few times on my channel, but both my parents are atheists, and I wouldn't exactly say I grew up explicitly atheist, but rather I just like didn't have anything religious discussed. I didn't know religion was like a thing. I watched VeggieTales because my mom didn't know it was religious when we got it, and I thought all the Bible stuff in it was like in-universe lore. But that was pretty much my only exposure to religion at all as a child, like a young child. Whenever I was around 8 or 9, I went to church with a friend thinking that it was like an extracurricular activity, and I was very confused and shocked by it. Shortly after that, I started getting in trouble due to my autistic child self not understanding the social taboos around religion. Cringy, but my mom constantly shows me young Sheldon clips from like when he's at church or talking about religion, and I think that that pretty accurately sums up how I was from both my and her perspective. I wasn't actively trying to be antagonistic to anyone, but it seemed obviously not real to me, and I would ask questions or point out flaws in what people said because I grew up in the South, and Christianity just generally doesn't like questions like that. That got me in trouble a lot. Point of that being, I feel like to some degree the answer is when I found out that people actually thought their religions were real. But I also think my original upset with it was because as a kid, I was just really confused why people believed it. And it's the one thing that children's incessant why questions were like explicitly not allowed and punished 100% of the time out of my home. I pretty much had a special interest in religion since then because that how can you believe this curiosity mixed with frustration never really went away. It's just evolved into doing like proper research on it instead of like annoying my friends' parents or things. I actually don't remember when I started explicitly calling myself an anti-theist, like using that word. But I'd say I came to hold the more organized views I do now around 18 to 20. There's a lot more I could go into here, honestly. The friend who was in a cult, experiences with religion that were pushed in my public middle school, being an out LGBT person at like literally 11 or 12, because I was outed, etc. But I think the point is more so that I've never been religious nor understood religion. And my personality mixed with just like 24 years of life experiences have led me to be where I am now. There's no clear line of when it went from being a frustrated child to like a solidly formatted belief. Okay, that was a long one. And the next question is from Comet in my server, and this one is kind of related, so I'm putting it next. Comet asks, would you say your autism affected your relationship with religion? Like, how might you view things based on facts about life or what we know and not just what not just what a lot of religions rely on, that being feeling God will have things worked out? Do you think being things like an anti-theist is more common in neurodivergent communities? I absolutely think it does. I don't know if being an atheist or anti-theist is more common among autistic people, but I know for me, it impacted my relationship to religion a lot. Obviously, there's what I stated in the previous question. In general, I really dislike people who refuse to answer good faith questions. I think a big part of that is because of my autism, because it's both frustrating that people assume intent when a question they don't like is asked, and also because communication, ironically, is one of the things I struggle the hardest with. I'm very blunt and straightforward, and I like asking questions and having long conversations about them. I think it should be acceptable for someone to ask for a clarification when you don't understand something, even if it's about something like religion. Because I was diagnosed young, I'm not high functioning, but I did receive really good support my whole life. I have been able to build a skill over time where I'm very comfortable to communicate in ways that work for me. If I don't understand, I'm just going to ask, even if it's a weird question, or if I don't like something that's happening or said to me, I'll say so. Point being, I'm pretty assertive, and I think that comes from the fact that I had to be in order to communicate with anyone. But religion doesn't like that, which is why, as I stated before, it's a big thing that turned me off to it from a really young age. Well, I can't say for certain if I'd feel differently had my parents been religious. I do think it's very unlikely that I would have stayed religious if that was the case. In regards to autism, it makes me a very, I guess, technical person. A lot of people try and dismiss stereotypes about autists being unempathetic, cold, and saying we're all actually hyper empaths. That's absolutely true for some people. It is not the case for me and a lot of other autistic people. That's not to say I'm never empathetic, but I tend to have a group of a few people who are close to me, mostly being my mom and my partner along with animals, that I have emotional, like feelings-based empathy for. And that's resulted in me being a very, I don't care how this thing makes you feel because it's not true kind of person, I think. My brain likes to know how things tick, how they work, and how we know that information to begin with. And when they don't work, or when people refuse to even attempt to explain it, it drives me insane, and I can't bring myself to like nod along for the sake of protecting their feelings. I know this sounds harsh/mean, and it probably is, but I really don't care how it makes them feel to tell them that the thing that they so strongly believe that is hurting other people is not true. If we don't know how something works, say I don't know. And religion is uncomfortable with that, so it makes up an answer, which like drives me mad. Next question comes from Golden Amaterasu, who asks, How open are you about being an anti-theist, and are there people in your life who don't approve? I'm pretty open about every opinion I have. I really do not like censoring myself in general. Well, obviously, I'm not just gonna spew all my YouTube content at anyone who like exists around me while being religious. If I'm asked about it, I'll answer honestly, and I have like anti-theism adjacent bumper stickers and shit on my car. I don't think there's anyone close to me right now who like doesn't approve. The only religious people that I'm close with are my grandma, who's actually the only person in my life who isn't aware that I'm an anti-theist or even an atheist, and a family friend who just, she doesn't care. She's unbothered. I have had a few friends throughout my life who have had issues with it, but no one that I'm still close with, mostly people from middle school or high school. Next question is from Frolic Fool, who asks, what are the issues with the political left and how would you change them? I am a leftist myself, so I mean, I don't have a laundry list of issues, but I do have a few things that irritate me. I do wish that leftists would not give so much slack to non-Christian religions. I have an older video about this that I've been planning to remake, but many leftists refuse to be able to see the nuance in religions like Islam or Buddhism or things like that. They're happy to call out identical issues in Christianity, but because Muslims are often treated poorly in the West, those same behaviors are given a pass or even rebranded as empowerment if they're based on Islam instead of Christianity. It's not impossible to recognize that Muslims are genuinely discriminated against and oppressed in the West, and that is unacceptable, and still recognize something like hijabs or burqas as purity culture and modesty doctrine that is no different from Mormons wearing prairie dresses, right? Or acknowledge homophobia, or that extremists do exist, they are just not everyone. My smaller issue is organization-based. So many leftists love to talk about quote-unquote organizing, but then don't do anything, despite most major cities and many smaller ones having active leftist groups in them that like do actual hands-on work, or even putting together their own resources for things like mutual aid or protests. A tweet isn't activism, go do something. Next question is from Fluffy Paws 5, who asks, what is your favorite and least favorite aspects of the LGBT community, and what widespread changes/impacts to it would you like to make if you could? My favorite is definitely the culture and community. While I gripe a lot about issues we have as a community, I think in-person community is generally lovely, and I really enjoy it. There's a lot of camaraderie and just generally kind, patient people, and it's something that I'm really grateful to have. My least favorite thing is probably going to get me some shit, but groupthink. I know I've had a lot of people reach out to me privately saying they agree with my content but are scared to say so, or even just like interpersonal issues of letting people walk all over you to be like nice and then getting to a point of blow up. There's a degree of censorship and walking on eggshells both as a wider community and in interpersonal relationships and like friend groups that really, really irritates me. If I could make any widespread change, it would be to have everyone learn that being open-minded is not synonymous with holding every mainstream progressive idea on a checklist. Obviously, yes, as a leftist, I think being open-minded leads to being progressive, but it is not a checklist. And I'm not saying, like, hear out Nazis or have brunch with a Trump supporter on your street. I'm saying listen to other LGBT people who you don't agree with. And if you don't change your mind, be honest about that in turn. Listening doesn't have to mean agreeing. It means not shutting down and insulting people the second they say something you don't like, and, like, actually thinking about what they're saying instead of shutting your brain off. Obviously, there are people who are hostile assholes. I have definitely shut down conversations through my channel and personally for people who just wanted to yell at me because they didn't agree with what I said. But I've personally learned and grown a lot from reading comments and interacting with people on my channel who hold different views than me. If I had shut all of them down because I think their opinion is bad, I wouldn't have been able to do so. Okay, this is going to be the last question, and it comes from Captain Snowpants 3088. Who asks, is trans misandry as prevalent in the LGBT and trans community as they say it is? If so, has it ever affected you personally? I think that I'd more so say trans male or FTM erasure is prominent, which can be a form of misandry, but I'm not really sure if everyone would classify it that way. I've talked about this before in another video, but a lot of people talk about us in a way that's like man light, because I'm progressive, so men bad, but trans men can't be bad, so you're just, like, a different thing. You're a separate category. It's the, like, small bean trans boy Tumblr shit just, like, metastasizing. This is not only, you know, transphobic, obviously, because it's not seeing trans men as men, but it also means that a lot of serious or stressful experiences that we have just get ignored. Even in, like, statistics, like, a lot of crimes against trans men are considered crimes against women. So while I can't say that I've necessarily experienced what I think most people mean whenever they say trans misandry, and I can't speak for anyone else if that is a widespread problem whenever I haven't, I have experienced a lot of undermining, I guess, if that makes sense. That's all for the Q&A. I'm sure I'll do another one at some point, but probably not for a while. If you like my content and want to support me in the free way, like the video and subscribe. If you want to financially support me in making content, check out my Ko-fi and commissions info in the description. I hope everyone is having a great summer, and I'll see you in the next one. Ha det.
The children think too much, they've hardly a fear of God, always asking questions they should only wish away. Sundays every week with Father Montgomery, as they've gotten older they can hardly stay